Hi everyone. So you're going to need your digital notebook pages for this video. You should have already made a claim about the plant and animal cells and gathered some evidence from the Discovery Ed collage and added those to Nearpod. Now we're going to make sure that we've got a plant and animal cell and then a Venn diagram of plant and animal cells in your digital notebook. So if you haven't gotten these already, they're linked in Canvas. Go ahead and do that. A quick refresher. If you want to add these to your digital notebook, here's mine. You need to go to the last page. I've actually already added these, but I'll show you. Go to the last page of your notebook, so make sure that's highlighted. For me, I'm on this 20th page here. And then you're going to import slides. And then you can either search, or here it is, it's the last thing I've been on, 111 plant and animal cells. So I would click on that, select it, and then it should come up for me. So when it comes up, you would highlight all of the slides. You want to import all of them, and then click Import Slides. And it will put them all at the end of your notebook. I'm not going to do that because I've already got them in there. So remember, you could go ahead and use these slides and import them later. It's up to you, but this is your copy that you've got. So go ahead and use that for our digital notes. So the I can statements for this lesson, like I said in the first video, it might be a review for some of you from middle school, but we want to make sure we've solidified these structure and functions of the organelles listed: nucleus, plasma membrane, cell wall, mitochondria, vacuole, chloroplast, and ribosome. And then that you can explain the differences in plant and animal cells, including their functions and their structures. So each one of these cell parts we will come back to in other units, and we will really get more in depth about especially structure to function. So what they do and how they're made to do what they do. But this is just kind of giving us, that basic, what do they look like, what kind of cells are they in, and just a basic what do they do. So the first page here, if we look at the cell, and because it's in color for us, nice and pretty in color, the first thing that sticks out might be the green structure. It might be the large structure in the middle, that blue structure here in the middle. It might be this outside, which is green. So most of you would probably tell me this is a plant cell, and it is. So let's go ahead and we can title this a plant cell. I'll move this up so it's over the highlighter. We've highlighted our title here. And then I've got arrows on each one of the cell parts that you need to know what it looks like. You need to be able to identify it in a cell, and then what it does. So I've got some names and functions down here at the bottom that we can just drag to the arrows. If you are working on a paper version of the notes, then you can just either cut these off at the bottom, or you could write them in if you wanted to. So first, let's go with the one that most people would pick out as being an animal cell. It's the green structure. It's what makes plants green. And it's right here. It is called the chloroplast. So I'm going to drag that chloroplast up to that arrow. It's where photosynthesis occurs, right? Something that's only in plant cells, I should say, and algae, and some protists. So a lot of times I tell students it looks like stacks of pancakes inside of a kind of eye-shaped or oval-shaped organelle. Again, we'll dive a lot deeper into chloroplasts and how they're made and structure to function, why they're made the way they are when we talk about photosynthesis, and we go more in depth into how photosynthesis occurs in cells. Okay, so we've got that one. Another one that is just found in plant cells is this large structure in the middle here. So this structure fills up with water, stores water, and it helps our cell, make this a little larger here. It helps our cell keep its shape. So that vacuole will fill up with water until that cell's plasma membrane is pushed against the cell wall. Remember, plants don't have skeletons or exoskeletons like we do. So they've got these cell walls that give them extra structure. And that vacuole, that large vacuole, helps keep that cell full. So it's pushed up against the cell wall. So we can go ahead and add the cell wall. It's the very outside of this cell. So I'll drag that one up there, cell wall. And like I said, it helps maintain the shape. It's like a little exoskeleton for every single cell in a plant. It doesn't, it's easy for stuff to get through the cell wall. It's not like the plasma membrane. It's not regulating what enters and leaves the cell. It just gives it that structure. Okay. Next over here, we've got right inside of the cell wall. I just mentioned that vacuole fills until the plasma membrane actually touches or is kind of pressed against the cell wall. That cell wall doesn't move like the plasma membrane. It's not as flexible as the plasma membrane or as fluid as the plasma membrane. So the plasma membrane surrounds every single cell, no matter whether it's a plant cell, animal cell, prokaryote, fungi, protists, no matter what, it's going to have a plasma membrane, so it surrounds the cell. And it helps maintain homeostasis by regulating what enters and leaves the cell. We will, in a future lesson, really get into the plasma membrane and the parts of the plasma membrane and what they do and how they help the plasma membrane do its job. Okay. Next we have, it's a circular structure, and it has a darker center called the nucleolus, and that is the nucleus. So the nucleus is where you find the DNA in a cell. DNA is way too important to be left outside in the cytoplasm with the rest of the organelles. So it has a membrane around it, and that membrane around the DNA is called the nucleus. And nucleus works closely with ribosomes. So ribosomes are the small dot structures that you'll see either attached to an endoplasmic reticulum or floating on their own. They actually come from the nucleolus and the nucleus, and they're not technically a membrane-bound organelle because they come together and are made and then are used to put amino acids together to make proteins. So when we talked about biomolecules, we know DNA, which is in the nucleus, has the instructions for making proteins. So the instructions are in the nucleus, and then those proteins are made at ribosomes where amino acids are connected. And then the last one here, it's a lot of times I'll say it looks like a bean to my kids with folded membranes, and that is the mitochondria. I'll make this smaller so it fits better over here. But that's the mitochondria where energy is released. I just messed up my picture. That's the mitochondria where energy is released through what we call cellular respiration. And this is another one of those organelles that we're going to get much more in depth into how it's made and how it works and how that structure relates to its function when we talk about photosynthesis and cellular respiration and how cells store energy and then release that energy through cellular respiration. Okay, so that's a plant cell. So obviously our next one That's a plant cell. This one is an animal cell. So make sure you've got your title labeled. I've got our title highlighted up there. I like the difference between these two pictures because this one's so colorful and pretty, and this one is just kind of a very flat black and white drawing. So you're going to see lots of different pictures of cells, and they might look a little bit different, but there are some things that you can recognize in all of them. So this one, right, the shape's not as structured. The plasma membrane is on the outside, so it's a little more flexible and fluid. And so let's go ahead and label that plasma membrane. We know it's on the outside here. It surrounds the cell. It regulates what enters and leaves. You will notice that all of these structures are found in animal cells as well. So we've got 4 structures on here. Okay, this circular in the middle, more concentrated area, that's the nucleus where DNA is stored. We've got ribosomes over here, the dots that are either attached to the endoplasmic reticulum or they're free floating. That's where proteins are made by connecting amino acids. Remember, those aren't technically membrane-bound organelles. A membrane-bound organelle will be one that is surrounded by a membrane. And then lastly up here, where energy is released. So mitochondria. So you should have these 4. Remember, you could use these to study. You could pull those boxes off of that cell and go back and label them, and use this video. Or take a picture of this and copy this slide and use that to study those organelles. Okay, so if you'd like, in just a moment, you can pause the video and try this yourself before we go over it. So just drag these words into the Venn diagram, either plant cell, animal cell, or both. Where do these organelles belong? Just use it to test yourself. So pause it now, test yourself, and come back. If you're coming back, let's check how you did. So we've got a couple of things to put in our Venn diagram. Most people can tell me the chloroplast goes on the plant cell side, right? Photosynthesis, that thinking about form to function, plant cells have to go through photosynthesis, though they have a structure to go through photosynthesis, and that's the chloroplast. Most students will tell me nucleus goes under both cells. That's where DNA is stored, and if it's a eukaryote, it has a nucleus. So plant and animal cells are both eukaryotes. Cell walls, like little tiny exoskeletons for cells, go under plant cell. Mitochondria, releasing energy. So every single cell has to release energy, has to get energy from the food that is consumed. So mitochondria would go under plant and animal cells, so all cells. Plasma membrane, so surrounding the cell. Every single cell, no matter what it is going to have a plasma membrane, a surrounding or cell membrane. Large vacuole to help give it structure. Water fills up inside that large vacuole. That's in plant cells. And then ribosomes. So ribosomes, every single cell has ribosomes. So that would go under both of ours. So make sure you check yourself. Again, you could use this to study as well. You could take these off and put them back. Make a copy of this and use it to study. Okay, the last thing you're going to do in your pod is you've got a few questions to let me know that you've got it, let you know that you've got those I can statements. And then lastly, in this lesson, I'd like you guys to do the vocabulary. So you've got a couple Frayer models to finish on your digital notes with the organelles. As always, reach out with any questions, and I'll see you guys the next time.